What is up, guys? Welcome back. I'm Kevin Krates. This is the crypto channel where you go over a bit of news and 5 charts every day, always starting off with Bitcoin, Ethereum. Today we'll be looking at AXS, EGLD, and SNX. And as always, we'll be looking at the Ichimoku cloud for everything I just listed. And as always, guys, just a reminder that timestamps are down below in the comments for you. If you just want to jump to a specific chart, feel free to. If you don't want to listen to me ramble, no hard feelings. The market is still looking rough, guys. Bitcoin struggling to get above 34K, just kind of hanging out a little bit underneath. We touched on that in the video yesterday. We said that the push would probably be capped around 34.2K. There really isn't much positive stuff going on in the market at the moment besides Axie Infinity, which we're going to be revisiting its chart today. We did touch on AXS and SNX a few videos ago, but there is a lot of reasons to keep an eye on both of those. If you take a look at Axie over here, up 158% in the last 7 days, and SNX not too far behind, up 52% in the last 7 days. So we're going to be revisiting these charts. I do plan to always try and throw in new charts every day, but if there is a reason to come back to charts, we always will be looking at them again. And AXS and SNX have a lot of things that we still should be keeping an eye on. So we're going to be revisiting those later on in the video. Just jumping over to some headlines, guys. Bitcoin's future funding rates are negative after May's crash, the longest period since March 2020. This is an article from today. Even while the price has stabilized itself within the 30 to 35K range for weeks now, funding rates have been consistently negative for that entire time, indicating that investors don't expect the price to return to its former highs anytime in the next short term, at least judging by this metric. So if we come down here in the article, you can see that March to April, things looked fairly similar to how they do now. And if you guys remember, March to April was around the height when Bitcoin was trading around 65,000 and started to work its way down ever since. Pretty much Bitcoin has been in a downtrend ever since April. And leading into May was the May 19th crash. There are a lot of negative headlines that we're also going to be jumping through here. Wall Street investors shy away from cryptocurrency as market tumbles. And that all of this is kind of correlated around the crackdowns and more regulations coming into the market. I mean, the SEC has set the date for July 28th. We talked about that yesterday, that these things will be affecting price negatively, and there won't be too much incentive to push the price up while there's still this question mark of how regulations and crackdowns are going to work out in the coming month. There was some positive news out of Paraguay yesterday that they're going to be presenting a crypto regulation bill next week. This is in line with what El Salvador is doing, making Bitcoin legal, and a lot of South America seems to be following suit. I mean, where this is going to get real crazy is when Brazil gets involved. But for the time being, I personally don't get too bullish about these headlines because we jump over here. UN Commission raises concerns about El Salvador's decision to authorize Bitcoin as a legal tender. And as I've been saying for a while, these things are going to take time. It's not going to be a quick adoption, and there's going to be a lot of obstacles in the way as countries will adopt Bitcoin. I mean, it's not just going to be El Salvador and Paraguay. We're going to see more and more countries come forward and adopt crypto, but there is going to be a lot of global obstacles to jump over before any of that actually begins to affect price positively. And in my opinion, these headlines are not as bullish as people like to make them seem. Although midday, if you see Paraguay congressman to present crypto bill, prices may spike up intraday. But as the weeks go on, you see more headlines like this, where other countries who are not currently legitimizing cryptocurrencies will raise concerns, will put down regulations, will get financial action task forces involved. So at the end of the day, there are a lot of hurdles in legitimizing cryptocurrency. So every country that does get involved, there may be an initial spike in price, but until this all settles down, there are a lot of obstacles in the way before cryptocurrencies can really be viewed as legal tender on a global scale. And as always, we have Elon Musk and Dogecoin in the news. I don't have too much to say about this, guys, except for the fact that Dogecoin is here to stay. I mean, I don't think Dogecoin will be going anywhere. I don't think shorting Dogecoin is a very smart idea on any basis. It has a billionaire backing it. It has a cult-like following. It bounces back after every major crash. It's basically a household name as far as mainstream crypto goes. If you look here, Bitcoin and Dogecoin are talked about on a regulatory level by the mainstream media. more so than you would see Cardano or Polkadot or even Ethereum to some extent. So Dogecoin is here to stay. White House to look at Dogecoin. I mean, you see these headlines. What did Elizabeth Warren say about Dogecoin? It is what it is. And I think we will be seeing more and more interesting news come out of Dogecoin in the coming months and years, to be honest. So this was the most interesting headline I saw all morning. Anthony Hopkins' new film will be sold as an NFT. Here's what that means for creators and the ones buying it. So Anthony Hopkins' new film Zero Contact is going to premiere as a non-fungible token on a new platform called Vuel. Vuel or Vule, I tried to look into it this morning. I couldn't find a landing page for it, but that is something I'll be diving deeper into. It creates scarcity in copies of film and protects against piracy. And there's a bunch of headlines about this. Oscar winner Anthony Hopkins' new film to be sold as an NFT on new platform. Enderberry Entertainment's pandemic film Zero Contact to premiere on a new NFT platform. This is huge, guys, and this is what NFTs have done for crypto in the last year. NFTs have led, in my opinion, mass adoption of crypto. They've led mainstream attention into crypto. And the ceiling for what NFTs will become, there is no limit. We see that with Axie Infinity's success, NFT games, NFT movie tickets, NFT stadium tickets, NFT college textbooks, NFT inventory tracking that VeChain is currently using. There is no limit to what NFTs will become, and they really, in my opinion, are just getting started. I think NFTs are the front door for mass adoption into crypto. But this was a very interesting headline, and it'll be interesting to see if any other movies adopt this going forward. Synthetics is a chart we'll be looking at later in the video, and this headline and article is the reason why. DeFi protocol Synthetics optimistic about July Layer 2 launch. So on July 26th, Synthetics will be launching on Optimistic Ethereum. And from what I understand, Optimism is a Layer 2 solution for Ethereum. And I've only heard about them a little bit. I follow them on Twitter. I haven't dove too deep into them, but they are somewhat competitive with Matic. There are some drawbacks to Optimism, from my understanding, is that it takes about a week with withdrawals, and they're also not interoperable, which is a bit of an issue. But it is another layer 2 solution, and it should be on everybody's radar. But the main reason we're looking at this is because July 26th is a launch date for Synthetics. Synthetics is DeFi, and DeFi is booming right now. So when we have a date like July 26th coming up, that is very interesting and worth keeping an eye on the chart as well. However, July 28th is the SEC's due date for regulations with crypto. So these are two very different dates with very different outcomes. But regardless, we will be definitely diving into Synthetics because of this. All right, looking at Bitcoin's chart for today, there really isn't much to say about Bitcoin. The RSI on the daily is it's doing the same thing it's doing. I'm kind of going to expect it to pull back right here. It's going to get hit. It's going to come back down. You can kind of see these wicks, at least yesterday, a bit of downward pressure kind of coming from around 34.1. Same with today, same area, a bit of pressure. But these long wicks, on the last 4 or 5 days, the long wicks the past few days, that just shows indecision in price. So we're going to look for price to kind of keep moving within this area in between 33.5 and 34.5, but it has yet to push too high up towards 34.5. On top of that, the stochastic RSI is high and kind of dropping. But if we come over here to the 4-hour chart, I mean, my price targets for Bitcoin are still around 30K at the moment, and potentially lower, and we're going to talk about why in a little bit. But even on the 4-hour, stochastic RSI is ridiculously high. So this price will probably pull down. But if we look at the 1-hour chart, stochastic ISI is shooting up a little bit. So in my opinion, sorry for all these lines, guys, but it's most likely going to just keep moving up and down within this 33 to 34, 33.5 to 34.5 range for now. Let's just take a quick look at the Ichimoku cloud. We can see all of our price targets still in place around, this is the daily chart, so still a lot of pressure from the Kumo cloud. Let's take a look here, guys. So we kind of set this price target 34.1, and that was based off of the conversion line originally, right? If we drag this over, we kind of figured we run into pressure there, and we have 34.1. It has yet to get to 35, which is what we talked about. Let's take a quick look at the 4-hour chart here and see where we are at. So as you can see, a lot of pressure coming from the Kumo cloud, but it is trying to work its way up. And let's see, the lagging span is back here and the baseline is above. So, I mean, it still doesn't look too bullish. It just looks sideways, and you have to take into account, even on the 4-hour stochastic the stochastic RSI is sky high. And it would take a lot to push through towards 35. Even if it does, I'd imagine it would get rejected around right here, 34.6, which is just like 34.5. So at the moment, it's running into resistance right around here. Let me just get my price label out. Price note, is it? Yeah. 34.2, which we talked about on the other chart where we're seeing some downward pressure. So for the time being, it's just going to keep moving within this 33.5, 34.5 channel. But without any bullish pressure, I mean, Bitcoin looks rough, and my price target for the next maybe week or so, unless something changes, is still around 30K and potentially lower, because we looked at the weekly chart yesterday. I'm sorry about all these price targets, but you can kind of see down here. Whoops, let me just move that over there. That there is this drop to 28K that is possible, and there could be a bit of a spring here. We could see a bit of a jump, but that doesn't mean the price can't drop. And I mean, nobody likes to hear it, but 20K Bitcoin is very possible. Let me just hide all the price targets. This is not a very thick cloud, as in there's not a lot of support in here. It makes sense. Usually when charting, I always go back to where something went parabolic and look for entries around there, which we're going to talk about later with AXS. But with the lagging span wanting to cross over here, the baseline going above the conversion line on the weekly, this is starting to look like a very bearish setup. If we see that yellow line kind of come in here, which is the lagging span, that is a very bearish setup. What Bitcoin does have going for it, though, are these long wicks. I guess I can't draw and keep my price labels off. These long wicks are showing upward pressure, but we're seeing a bit of it the other way around. So there's extreme indecision in price, which is around 35K, but we could see a drop, and my price target for the time being for Bitcoin, at the very least, is going to be around 31K, would be my first target, but 30K would be the target for Bitcoin unless anything changes. Looking at Ethereum now, I mean, look, my notes from yesterday are still here, but at the end of the day, these notes kind of remain the same because not much has changed for Ethereum. Ethereum, with the test nets all done, has no reason to pump and will move how Bitcoin moves, in my opinion. However, in early August, there always is the opportunity for Ethereum to kind of do its own thing with the London hard fork. And don't forget that Synthetics is launching on the 26th on the layer 2 solution Optimism for Ethereum, which we're going to dive deeper in coming videos, but for now, we just have to keep in mind that Ethereum does have a lot of bullish catalysts coming up, and that could push price up as the month goes on. But for the next few weeks, we most likely will see Ethereum downtrend unless anything changes. So my price targets for Ethereum are still going to be a little bit under 2,000, which is based on the 200 EMA here. And I believe that would be the first target that it's going to bounce off of, just a little bit underneath or maybe just right above, but around 2,000. But I'm going to say it'll probably dip a little lower. But in the coming weeks, I could see 1,700 kind of being hit again. And there's a lot of bearish reasons for Ethereum at the moment. I mean, it had a lot of reason to pump here, and it did not, right? It barely got to 2,500, and now working its way down, that huge candle, and a lot of these indecision prices here, right? You see the wicks up and down, but it's stuck to Bitcoin for the time being, and that's going to push prices down. But let's have a quick look at the Ichimoku cloud for Ethereum as well. So on Ethereum, my notes still there, and honestly still the same. I mean, look, this is on the 4-hour chart, right? If you look at the 4-hour chart, yes, the stochastic RSI has a bit of room to pump, but it's fallen through the cloud, and it's going to run into resistance now against 2141, and you can see the long wicks, the long wick down, the long wicks here. It tried to hang on to support. It's kind of popped out here, but it's got resistance coming up there, so it's most likely going to work its way down in price towards this target, which is going to be just around 2,000. Yeah, so the targets for Ethereum are still the same. I'm assuming it's going to reach 2,000 first. But if nothing bullish comes out soon, around 1,700 could be where Ethereum lands. Let's take a quick look at the daily chart for Ethereum. So Ethereum did get rejected around the cloud as we assumed it would, with a lot of downward pressure. But Ethereum wants to go up, but there's a lot of resistance in this cloud as well. So for the time being, my price targets for Ethereum are still around 2,000, and then from there I could see 1,700 still being hit. Axie Infinity, AXS. We talked about this chart a few days ago. If you guys want to go back and take a look at the video there, you can. However, I'll just press this button here and all our notes from that day are back. So as you can see, it did reach my first target. It came back down to 11.2. I said it would pull back there, and if that did not hold, we could hopefully see prices pull back to about here, which was an entry that I was hoping to find because I would like to pick some AXS up. I've been following Axie for quite a while, and to be honest, it's starting to feel like we might miss the boat on this one. I mean, at this point, I'm starting to look at other projects that might be, I mean, Axie's opened the door for play to earn to really take off, but there's still a lot of potential here. I still would like to potentially get in on this project. And when something is moving the way that this is moving, it's always worth keeping an eye on. We did look at the Ichimoku cloud that day, and I did say this looks really good and it could keep going. However, we are in a bit of a risk off market. If we were in a more of a risk on market, I might have taken this target here when it pulled back because it looked like it had room to run. But considering the state of the market, considering everything going on, considering there are other things that I'm looking to buy off a crash, I couldn't really justify buying Axie on a slight pullback. I would have liked to see it come down more towards the $9, $8 targets, but it pulled back to about 11.2 off its initial run up to 16, and now it is just taken right off. And let's take a look at the height of this push. So it's pushed towards pretty much $20, which is insane. So as far as this goes, the RSI on the daily is just sky high, but that's not technically a reason that it would pull back. And if we get rid of my notes there, you can kind of see the stochastic RSI is pulling down a bit. Let's take a quick look at the Ichimoku cloud. So as you can see with AXS on the Ichimoku cloud, this just looks amazing. I mean, think of every other chart that we look at, right? The lagging span is way up here. The conversion line is right where it should be, and the baseline is underneath, and the cloud is nowhere near. There is no reason why AXS can't keep pumping. I mean, but however, the things to take in mind are how thin this cloud is. There is no reason there couldn't be a sell-off. Right now, I would put a target for a pullback around the conversion line, possibly. Maybe it'll come back down to 12, but there really is no reason that this can't keep pushing. But the market is not in a state where I would personally want to jump into something that's moved like this. Let's take a quick look at the 4-hour chart and see if we can see it. Even the 4-hour chart looks amazing. I mean, Axie will most likely keep going. If there was a higher price target that I would be looking for, maybe around 16, I'm going to keep a close eye on this. I don't know if I would jump into it. I also don't know if I would ever short this because if you don't know much about the Axie Infinity project, you really should look into NFT and NFT games. If you guys follow me on Twitter, I did a poll maybe about a month or a couple months ago about DeFi, and then I did a poll about NFT games because ever since the market has gone into this crab-like sideways state, DeFi and especially NFT games are where most of my focus has been. And in a future video, we will definitely dive into all the different various play to earn games that, I mean, there's so many, and there's so many that are backed by very legitimate companies. And the NFT gaming space is something that is going to continue to grow and bring a lot of mass adoption and mainstream attention to crypto. But Axie Infinity is just on a move, and there really is no way to tell how high this could go. It's going to slow down at some point because at the end of the day, these prices kind of dictate how the game is played, right? I mean, Axie, there's already such a barrier to entry with price. I don't know if you guys know anything about the program, but there is something called Axie scholarships. And the way that works is that, let's say you want to buy a team of Axies, you have to buy three or four Axies, but that could put you back anywhere from $1,200 to $2,000. You could get some cheap ones, but the bottom line is there's a cost of entry that's very high. On top of, you need AXS to breed, you need SLP in-game. These things cost money, and the higher the prices go, eventually it will reach a cap that will make the game unplayable. So at some point, this is going to top out and move down aggressively, and some of this hype, there's going to be a bit of a hype somewhere in here, especially since nothing else in the market is currently moving like this. There is definitely a lot of money just riding the wave. So personally, I'm not looking to touch Axie at the moment, but I'm keeping a very close eye on it. If I was looking for price targets for pullbacks, I would say 16, it would be a safe pullback, but $12 is, more ideal, but personally I would like to see it get back underneath $10, somewhere within the $9 to $8 range. But Axie Infinity is just a monster looking chart. EGLD, Elrond Gold, is a very interesting blockchain project that I was actually considering buying back when it was not near the top, but it was after the May 19th crash. I looked into it a little bit. I decided against buying it, and for the time being, I'm kind of happy I made that decision because it has fallen down more. The reason I did not buy it at the time was mostly because of the bounce. The number one thing for me always is charts, guys. I don't really care about how many transactions. I don't care about staking. Those things I definitely factor in, but for me, it's always what the charts are telling me. And Elrond Gold is not a bad project, and we're going to look at the Ichimoku cloud in a moment. I'm going to show you why it still has potential. But these bounces, let's look at May 19th, right? Bounce off May 19th, only 84%, which isn't bad. It's not terrible, but compared to other things, that usually gives me a signal that there's more time to buy, right? Over here, bounce again, 90%. So it tends to bounce around close to about 100%, which isn't bad, but there are much stronger bounces on some of these crashes. That being said, it's also losing a bit of steam and didn't really, considering where it fell from, I mean, a height of what was around 247. So in terms of price targets for Elrond, I don't believe Elrond is going to find a way to move without Bitcoin or Ethereum pumping. So my price targets, unless it finds a way to get above 110, I mean, really you'd have to look for like a midway here. So it would have to get above the 200 EMA on the daily. So it would really have to get above 100. But let's take a quick look at the Ichimoku cloud, because that's where Elrond actually looks a lot more interesting. So looking at the 1-day chart for the Ichimoku cloud for Elrond. By the way, I just want to clarify what I said earlier about not caring about staking or transactions. Those things I do obviously look into, but the number one thing that I look into above those, as well as the charts, is always apps or dApps. I want to know what applications are on the blockchain, and above all, I always want to hear about DeFi. DeFi is what I want to see first, and DeFi is usually what will lead me to that blockchain first. Because in my opinion, DeFi will always bring institutional money in, and at the moment, I haven't heard about any big DeFi projects for Elrond. They could be coming down the wire. If there are any that I haven't heard about, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I mean, there's so many blockchains to look into, guys. At the end of the day, it's like we all miss things. There's, you can only really keep track of so much of these, especially considering most of us, including myself, do not have a computer science degree and barely understand what a hard fork is, but we know that they are important. So as far as transactions, as far as staking is obviously a big one as well, guys, because I mean, staking locks up the circulating supply. So staking, I do know Elrond with I think it's the Myar wallet, the Myar wallet. I don't know how to say it. I haven't looked into it too deeply, but I do know that they have a very easy to use wallet that has made staking very simple to do, which is very important. As far as this chart goes, what I wanted to point out here was that this is not a very thick looking cloud. Not only that, EGLD re-challenged to retake the cloud, and obviously it's not going to push through when Bitcoin and Ethereum are struggling, because there is no reason for this to move autonomously. However, the fact that it is trying to push, the conversion line is above the baseline, and you can see here that the lagging span on the daily is trying to cross back bullish. In my opinion, Elrond is undervalued, just judging by this chart. And again, guys, I'm mainly a charts guy. I'm not a fundamentals guy, but charts tell me the story without really needing to know too much about the fundamentals. What I see here is that Elrond is currently undervalued and wants to push up in price, but that it most likely will not, considering everything going on. So when we look for price targets with Elrond, it's most likely going to pull back to about 79 in the coming days. And then from there, I would look for potential targets closer to 50. Let's just go back to the basic chart for a moment. And looking at this 4-hour chart here, we can see the stochastic RSI has room to pump. The RSI is kind of low here. So as far as price targets, we're going to have to put them lower, because we're still functioning under the notion that Bitcoin is going to go lower. So let's put prices here like this. I mean, in terms of price pushing up, it's a no-brainer, right? If it gets above 110, that looks pretty bullish. There isn't too much resistance on the way up. There might be some around 115, 124, 138, but if it manages to get above 110, that's obviously a bullish scenario. You can see that little spike in volume down there too. So there's definitely something going on with Elrond that is worth keeping an eye on. So if I was to want to look for potential entries, considering the first pullback for Bitcoin, it's probably going to drop down to about 74 would be the first target. From there, 66 might be another one, but around somewhere between 66 to 74 would be an initial target for Elrond here. But ideally, I would still be trying to shoot down here. I mean, in my opinion, I'm not trying to be bearish, but the crypto space does not look good. And I don't think for the next month or so, it's going to get much better. Maybe in August when the Ethereum hard fork rolls out, things could change. But price targets for Elrond are going to be around 67 to 74 initially, but long term, and by long term, I mean within the next few weeks, I would hope to see it more around 56. Anything close to $50 for Elrond may not be a bad entry. And let's just look at one level lower just in case things get real crazy, right? So somewhere between $40 to $60 for Elrond is great. I mean, think of how high it went earlier this year when things were looking bullish. And then take into account that it is currently one of the better looking charts. It did drop pretty low. This is May 19th, obviously. Yeah, like right around here would be May 19th. And it kind of hung around here. It had a bit of resistance around there, but something in early or mid-June kind of just shot this straight up. Higher than Ethereum even went into uptrend territory, I believe. I mean, let's take a quick look at Ethereum. Yeah, even higher than Ethereum went as far as uptrend goes. So EGLD looks interesting to me, so I may be looking for an entry. Personally, I would want to get in lower here. 67-ish also wouldn't be bad. I would look for it to pull back to, what do we say on the Ichimoku chart? Let's just take a quick look, 79. So yeah, that makes sense. Somewhere around 74 to 67 would be my initial targets, but I would hope to see it come back down more towards 56 or 40 would be my price targets. SNX. So we did look at this before, so that's why we have these lines of support already drawn, and it's still hanging around these top ones. I guess it did pull back, considering this was a few days ago we did the chart for SNX. So I guess it did pull back to one of my targets down here, and then bounced back up to its height, which is around here. So let's add a little bit more to SNX here, because July 26th is coming up, right? So, and also if we look at the daily chart, very similar to Elrond, we see down here that it shot up. Was it June 22nd? Yeah, pretty much around the same time Ethereum shot up. And again, even higher than Elrond went. And it look at this, still well above 50 on the RSI. However, the stochastic RSI on the daily is kind of high, but I'm pretty sure it's probably going to have support if we just come back a little bit. Yeah, so it's going to have support that it's going to bounce off of. I don't know how deep SNX might pull back just because of, you know, it's just like Ethereum with the testnets when there is something to look forward to, especially in DeFi, right? I mean, DeFi brings in a lot of money. A lot of money gets locked up. So as far as SNX goes, look at that volume too. That RSI is still an uptrend. So SNX looks really good. Let's take a quick look at the Ichimoku cloud. So looking at SNX's Ichimoku cloud on the daily, look how interesting this looks, guys. So the lagging span is trying to cross through. At the moment, the conversion line is above the baseline. These are all bullish indicators. And look how much it's pushing into this cloud, more so than most other things we've seen. And it's not taking the rejection too hard. It may pull back to this area here, 9.4. But I mean, what day is today? Today's the 10th. So we're talking about less than, you know, two and a half weeks from now will be not even 2.5 weeks. July 26th would be just 2 weeks and 2 days, really, right? So as far as this goes, but there is that SEC July 28th date, which could kind of push into it. But let's just take a look at some of the prices inside of the cloud. I mean, generally, you don't want to take a trade in a cloud, and the market being such a risk-off market at the moment. Also kind of, you know, I mean, if this was to push up to 15 or get above, that'd be pretty crazy. It is a bit of a distance to go in the cloud, but SNX looks really good. Let's take a quick look at the 4-hour chart and see what that is telling us. So look at this, kind of similar to AXS almost. We haven't seen too much of this with any other chart we've really looked at, right? So let me just delete that because that's from the cloud. So we can kind of take that as a high price target here, right? And then that would be the top of the cloud if it gets above. The lagging span is still hanging out here. The conversion line is about to cross, or has it crossed on the 4-hour? It's pretty much crossed, and the baseline is going to go underneath. So we could see an SNX pump, to be honest. I mean, I would be surprised to see it go into the cloud, but we still have another 2 weeks for that to happen, and a lot could happen in the crypto space in that time. But SNX is definitely one I will be watching. I would not expect it to pull too far back below 9.5, but let's pretend it does. Because if there is a big enough crypto crash, right, if Bitcoin drops low enough, there is always the opportunity to pick up cheap altcoins. I mean, that's why I really don't understand why anybody cares what Bitcoin does. Because as far as crypto goes, it's not really too outside the realm of normal to just say mass adoption is inevitable now. I mean, that's not really a brilliant take for anybody to say at this point, because I mean, cryptocurrency mass adoption is inevitable on some level at some point, whether it's NFT games or just movies being released in non-fungible tokens, or whatever stadium concert you go to, you buy your ticket with an NFT. Cryptocurrency on some level is absolutely going to be mass adopted. But Bitcoin at the moment is, it's a gift what it does. Every time it crashes the entire market, right? When, let's say SNX drops down to our price targets down here, let's just say we get real lucky. SNX comes down to some of these lower price targets of $5. SNX is not $5 because of SNX in that scenario. SNX is $5 because of Bitcoin, which gives us a pretty close to green light that it will bounce back in price. That is why crypto is such a special market, because everything is still so intensely tied to Bitcoin. Don't get me wrong, if you're holding Bitcoin, if you're a Bitcoin maxi, these are not ideal situations, obviously, especially the amount that, I mean, Bitcoin fell what, over 50%, 65,000 down to 30K. That is a massive drop in your portfolio. However, if you're not a Bitcoin maxi and you really don't care about Bitcoin and you're much more bullish on altcoins, every time Bitcoin dips, it's just a gift, guys. And it's a great opportunity as long as you can control your emotions and take advantage of it. So as far as price targets for SNX, I mean, I'd like to see it get down to $5, but I find that very unlikely. There is a bouncing point here around $7 it could get to. So I would look for something between $7 to $9.50. This is not a guarantee that it's going to fly through. However, you got to keep in mind that July 28th is the SEC regulation date, and July 26th is when SNX goes live on the Optimism network for Ethereum. So those are two very different dates to look forward to, but they're right next to each other. So for the time being, I would like to see SNX pull back to 9.5, potentially lower. If it goes under 8.7, that also may not be a bad place to dollar cost average in. Anywhere between 7.8 and 8.7 would be very ideal. But as far as this goes, there could be a pullback to 9.5, or there could also be a pullback to 9. So somewhere between 9 to 7.8 would be my price targets for SNX. But I will definitely be keeping a very close eye on SNX. And if you guys follow me on Twitter, KevinCrates_, I tweet actively. I will probably be tweeting some SNX charts in the coming days, because this is worth keeping an eye on. When you see something like this, very similar to what we saw with AXS. AXS, on the other hand, being a NFT game, SNX being a DeFi platform connected to Ethereum. So for that very reason, it is a bit of a risk off market. I may not be so quick to pull the trigger around these price targets, maybe on the lower ones, but at the end of the day, SNX is a lot going for it. And don't forget the London hard fork coming up in a month. So we could see some pretty big moves from SNX, and we will definitely be keeping an eye on it, and we'll probably revisit the chart in the coming days. All right, guys, that's it for today. Thanks for hanging out. I hope you found some information in this video useful. If you did, feel free to hit the like button down below and leave a comment. If you're not subscribed, do hit the subscribe button and turn on alerts. I do tweet every time I post a video. If you guys aren't following me on Twitter, Kevin Crates _ extremely active on there. I post charts all throughout the day. I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will catch you guys tomorrow. I'm out.